All right, my friends, welcome to another video lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be discussing the use of still images and the manipulation of them as well. So over in my project panel, in my graphics bin, I have a sub bin called From Anthony, where all of my still images are living. Here they all are. And just like we did with the B-roll, I've made a string up for my images as well. You can see that down here. And here it is. Here are all my still images that we got from Anthony. So Anthony has a fairly robust Instagram account, and he was able to provide the original high quality images of some of the posts that he's made. So that's how we got these. So back over to my timeline here, my main edit. What I want to do is utilize a still image right after the end of his first soundbite here.
I wanted to get into it.
So starting right there and ending on that snare beat right there. So basically a couple beats.
Get into it.
Ending right there. So I'm going to grab this image because it's incredible. I mean, look at him. He's flying midair. I can't do that. So just like we did with B-roll and the sound bites, I'm going to copy this, Command or Control C, and head over to my interview sequence and make sure that it lands on V3, this track here, by turning off V1 and V2. And at the playhead, I will paste it in, Command or Control V. And I think what I want to do is have it appear right on the beat after he finishes his soundbite here.
Into it.
Cool. And then I want it to end on this snare hit here, right there. So with my playhead on that, I'm going to drag the end of this over, trim it back, and now we've got the image for the exact amount of time we want. Cool. Nice little rhythmic representation. And the image itself is super cool, but it would be even cooler if it moved, if we could get a little motion associated with this. And we can do that using the motion controls in Premiere. So I'm going to select the image and go up to my effect controls here, and you can see there's a motion tab here. If I twirl that down, I've got position, scale, rotation, anchor point, anti-flicker filter. What we're concerned with here is very basic motion, position and scale. So what I'd like to do is have the image grow a little bit as if the camera's pushing in toward him in midair, and then have it move over a little bit to the left and toward the top portion of the screen, just slightly, to help maintain focus on the subject in the image. So what I need to do is bring my playhead back to the beginning of the clip here. So with V3 turned on, I'm going to hit my up arrow to get back to the very first frame. If I zoom in, you can see that's where I am. And I'm going to activate our initial keyframes, our starting point for the movement of this image. And to do that, I'm going to hit the stopwatches that are next to position and scale. And you can see 2 keyframes are created. You can see their little noses poking out there. If I grab one, bring it over, it's actually a diamond, okay? But at the very beginning, you can only see half of it. And this is the starting point. Now I'm going to bring the playhead all the way to the end of the image. And if I drag it to the end of the bar here, I'm actually on the first frame after the image. If I zoom in, you can see I'm not actually on that image anymore. So I want to go 1 frame back. That's the very end. And now I want to make my change. So I want the image to grow slightly. So I'm going to increase the scale, and not a lot. That's one of the keys in doing this, especially with the kind of music that we have that's kind of mellow and vibey. We don't want to do anything abrupt, sudden, jarring. We want this to be very subtle. So I'm going to change this by a very small amount. And I can either click into the field and drag left or right to shrink or grow the image. That's one way to do it. Or I can type in a value, and that's what I'm going to do in this case. I'm going to type in 107. So it's 7% larger. Not much. Now let's check that out.
Get into it.
Looks cool. But what I want to do is very slightly move it up and to the left just to help maintain focus on our subject in the image here. And what I want to do is line up the end of the position movement with the exact end of the scale movement. So I need to have my playhead right on this keyframe in order to place my next one in position. So how do I get there exactly? I can guess by trying to drag right over it here, or I can use the keyframe navigator. And you can see these little arrows will actually move the playhead from keyframe to keyframe, the previous keyframe or the next keyframe. So I'm jumping from the beginning to the end here, right on that keyframe. And I know I'm there because the keyframe indicator is illuminated blue. So again, there are a couple ways to change the position as well. I've got horizontal movement here, back and forth. I'm just clicking in and dragging left and right. And then I've also got vertical movement, and I'm just clicking and dragging left and right to move it up and down. That's one way to do it. Another way is to click on the word motion, and you can see when I do that, there's actually a box that appears around the image. Let me zoom out a little bit here on my view. And you can see this is the edge of the frame of the image. And I can actually now click in and hold and drag the image around. Now you see when I do that, there's actually a path that is created here. And this is the beginning of the movement and the end of the movement. First keyframe, last keyframe. I don't want to move it that much. Again, we're trying to do something very subtle here, so I'm going to move it just slightly. Zoom back in. And now, as it grows, it will also move up and to the left just slightly. You can see it move along that path. All right, so let's check that out. See how that looks real time.
Get into it.
Nice. Like that. So that is still image manipulation using the motion controls in Premiere. So let's go to a latter portion of the sequence here, and you can see something else I've done with the images. This is a quick cut little sequence that's tied to a little bit of a drum roll. Let's check it out. Okay, so you can see on the last image here that we hold on, I've done the same thing where I've got keyframes on scale and position. It's growing and moving slightly up and to the left. That just happened to work for this. You don't have to do it that way. But I was trying to do that so we could help place focus on the fact that all of this here is being held up by one hand. Pretty cool. Now in the quick cut portion of it, there's 3 images that happen in quick succession and then this one that we hang on for a little while. And I'd like to draw your attention to the second of the 3 images here. Look at this. It's a great image, but it doesn't fit the frame properly. And because of that, we've got black bars on the side. This is called pillaring because it looks like 2 black pillars. And you can see on the image before and after, I've actually filled in that area. And I did it in a very special way. I actually used the image itself to do that. So how did I do that? Well, check it out. What we're going to do is click on the image here, zoom in a little bit, and hold down Option, click on it, drag up, let go with the mouse, then with Option, and I've created a copy. Now I've got 2 levels of this image. I'm going to click on the bottom one, head up again to my motion controls, and increase the scale of it so that it fills in that area. And I don't want to see his head and foot poking out here necessarily. So I'm going to use the vertical position control here to move that down just a bit. Nice. Okay, cool. Now what I'm going to do is blur that image so that it becomes a nice soft background element on which our main image will sit. So in order to do that, I'm going to head over to my effects panel here, and I'm going to search for Gaussian blur. So I'm going to type in GAU. And here we go, Gaussian blur right here. Under blur and sharpen. I'm going to take that effect, drag it onto the clip, and you can see Gaussian blur has been applied and absolutely nothing has happened. That's because we have to manipulate the controls here. So what we're going to do is change the blurriness. I love that, blurriness. All right, so I'm going to click in and drag to the right to increase the amount of blur until I get something that's nice and soft, that supports the image, has a similar color scheme to it, but doesn't distract from it. Pretty cool. So now let's play through the entire sequence again and check that out. Cool, looks really nice. All right, my friends, that is still image manipulation using the motion controls in Premiere. And that does it for this video lesson. I'll see you again in the next one.